Mandal. Sumant has been, for a long time, an early stage institutional investor. He has helped incubate a whole set of companies, many of them being very successful. Rubicon project that went public a couple of years back, BillDesk in India, back-end payments company, and including my own company, Mimosa. Sumant.
Okay, I just realized I have two very, very hard acts to follow. And I'm going to talk about some things that are probably a bit more mundane that we heard about, but I thought it would be good just to set the stage as we get started on the day today. The Hive is about 3 years old, and Ravi and I created it with sort of a frustration of watching every company that we've been involved with at that time trying to do the same thing and finding it very hard to get it done, which is using big data technologies to make decision making happen. And you know, we do live in interesting times. I'm going to paraphrase, I'm probably going to butcher it, a quote I heard yesterday, which is, maybe I can't remember what it was, technology has never moved as fast as it has now, and it will probably never be as slow again, or something like that. So this chart, and I have to give Jamie the credit for that. I mean, he said it, but it was not his quote either. He also stole it from someone. This chart sort of talks about the world we live in, and I was looking at this and I said, there has to be other data points, and I think we were just researching this morning. I think it took WhatsApp less than about 2 years to get to 100 million people using it. Of course, now it's north of 600, and WeChat 18 months. So the pace of innovation, pace of adoption of technologies has dramatically increased. We at the Hive have been focused on data, which I think is the underpinnings of all of this stuff, and how to make this usable, useful. And the stuff that Ravi's going to talk about, the other people that are going to follow me are going to talk about are in the spaces on the right, which is around VR, AR, blockchain, the Internet of Things, and how that pertains to the world we live in. Oops. Okay, I'll skip that slide. The other thing that I think has happened in the last decade, probably more in the last 5 years, is mobile's become the dominant platform for computing. There's some reasons why I bring this up. This is not something new to the people in this room. The reason we bring it up is because it actually creates for an opportunity, at least we think it does, of reimagining how people engage in technology. And it has filtered in, and there's a lot of excitement around what's happened in the world of consumer technologies around this, but I think mobile, as it hits the enterprise, is going to reimagine how the enterprise computing network is. This next slide I stole from Mike, actually. And I think you saw it in his deck. I actually apologized to him when he said, no problem, he steals everyone's slides. So the Hive is a global institute. Now we started with just the two of us, small little office. We opened Hive in India. Arihant is over here, you should talk to him. There's a few companies in Bangalore and in Chennai out of Hive India. And then following my talk is Everson, who's helping us launch Hive in Brazil. And all very exciting, and what you realize is the interest in this area of technology has been spread pretty global. There's a lot of people struggling to figure out how to use it, a lot of people struggling to figure out how to find talent to effectively make this happen. I mentioned sort of the mobile issue. The other thing that I think if you travel in the world, you realize is that people don't now go and engage with technology as a thought or a initiative. It sort of is something they're engaged in all the time. And when I say all the time, now it's today the smartphone. I think we have a point of view that the smartphone or the on-demand or whatever you want to call it as your technology with you all the time is going to morph into something that we don't even imagine. Probably the interfaces are going to look very different. We'll talk a little bit about that. The other, I guess, this is sort of the most interesting development in the last few years, which is this major focus from large industrial companies, and I'd say industrial on one side, and the other side, consumer wearable companies around the Internet of Things. And if you boil it down to it, what it really means is that there's a lot more devices connected to the Internet, to each other, and therefore that for us, a tremendous amount of data sources that needs to be processed to make all of this work of any use. There's another study that came out that the IoT space is going to be some $7 trillion of whatever it is, revenue. But the only way that happens is if it is all pervasive, which means that this encompasses anything and everything from energy to manufacturing to marketing to retail, wearables, clothing, whatever it is. And so for us, it's a tremendously interesting new paradigm, a new platform. We have a few companies, I think you'll hear from Foghorn today, or David King is here to speak about one of the companies in this space, but also from Harel, who is one of our advisors and is running GE's software unit, which is building their own version of what they think needs to happen for this to become useful. And as I mentioned, for us at the Hive, we think about what we do here in building applications. And applications necessarily where the use of data, whether it's a lot of data or a wide variety of data, that can create some competitive advantage. And I think between Hive 1 and Hive 2, we have about 14 companies in the portfolio, and the common thread around all of them is this one belief. And so, we say we're a big data focused firm. I think it's kind of a little bit of a misnomer, because I think it applies to everything and anything. So it's very easy for us to engage in any application today where I think it'll apply to most every industry. The one industry that people have focused on here around, I think, the IoT space and a lot of action is around the industrial stuff. And I think between Siemens, ABB, General Electric, some of the larger systems providers like IBM and Microsoft and Hewlett-Packard, all who partner with the Hive in one capacity or the other, tremendous amount of interest in action with it right now. What's next? It's machine learning. Mohan, who is our CTO at the Hive, is way past me in IQ, and is a complete machine learning, deep learning nerd. He keeps trying to tell me things which I don't understand. The one thing I do understand is that for all of this data to become practical, to become useful for applications, data science is very important. There's many new sort of variations of data science. I think we're really focused right now on trying to understand what deep learning can do. We have a few projects in that space. As these devices get connected to each other and it becomes a platform, which I think is still a ways away. There's many other problems that need to be solved, and hopefully we'll be part of solving them. It's around security and standardization and access, etc. I think every one of these spaces has room for innovation, and we have some projects in each one of them, or at least I would say research in most of them to try and see where we can build, what we can build, where the white spaces are. Okay, so once we have that, you have everything is connected, and you have a smart data science layer on top of that. What happens when the marginal cost of access to any of this goes near to zero? I think it's kind of like talking about smartphones 10 years ago. We all knew it should happen, it could happen, but we had no idea what it would enable and the economy or the application layer that's enabled now. So for us, that's something that keeps us excited and engaged, constantly looking at new things that are happening in this space. And it doesn't really matter which application drives it. I think the paradigm around computing is going to shift. So as Mike mentioned, there's many big problems in the world. There's been, if you look at his presentation, you think about where can all of this be applied. Healthcare is definitely an interesting application. We are trying to think about applications that can use data to better deliver healthcare, can multiply the doctor's hours by many hours, and so manufacturing, industrial technologies, with companies like Foghorn enabled there, definitely have interest in finance, in any way you can factor risk and how you can deliver financial products or financial inclusion to people who don't have access to finance. And at the end of the day, the idea is to create more efficiency and free up more time for human capital. And that's essentially what drives us at the Hive. That was my introduction. And with that, I'm going to have Everson come tell us a little bit about Hive in Brazil.